All right, good evening. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the board meeting tonight. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. When you joined, you heard an audience member that you are in listen-only mode. You cannot unmute yourself to speak, and I cannot unmute you. If you would like to submit a public comment during the public comment portions of the meeting, please use the questions tool to type your comment and send it to us. If you are on a desktop or laptop computer, this is located at the top right with a question mark. If you are on a phone, iPad, or tablet, this is located along the bottom toolbar with a question mark and the word questions. Please type the comment in this area, then hit send. This message will come directly to me, and I will read your comment to the board. The agenda also indicated that public comments may be sent in advance via email to comment@prparks.org. If you are having trouble with the questions tool on the platform, please feel free to email your comments to comment@prparks.org. I will also continue to monitor that email during the meeting. Now I will turn things over to President Coyne to begin the meeting. As of now, there are no audience members, but it was good practice.
Except it's Vice President Tunnell.
I accept the call to order on behalf of our absent president tonight. So I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of Thursday, August 13th, 2020. The time is now 7:02. If we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Grau?
Here.
Commissioner Harrington? Commissioner Leduc?
Here.
Leach?
Here.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Here.
Mr. Coyne.
Thank you for that. Anyone like to amend, add, or delete an item to the current agenda? Going once, going twice. Moving on, we will go to the approval of minutes. I'm sorry, public comment on non-agenda items. I believe you said nobody was on, but has anybody came back on? Hearing none, we'll go to the
There are no attendees.
Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes. I move to approve the regular board meeting of Thursday, July 16, 2020, and the special board meeting minutes of Thursday, August 6, 2020. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? May I please call a roll call vote?
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington? Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Commissioner Leach?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Yes.
Mr. Coyne. Thank you.
Moving right along to the report of park officials. The president is not here, so I assume that he did not email any comments. I did not receive any, so there's a suggested motion before us, approval to cancel the September 3rd, 2020 special board meeting. I move to cancel the Thursday, September 3rd, 2020 special board meeting. This action will be formally ratified at actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date.
A second.
Thank you. And can we please call a vote?
Commissioner Harrington? Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Leach?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Mr. Coyne.
Thank you very much. And with our attorney being absent, I'd like to turn it over to our executive director.
Thank you. So my first report is relating to COVID-19 and activities surrounding that. You know, we met last Thursday. I reviewed several things, so this will be shorter tonight, but the finances will be updated. Superintendent DeAngelis will talk about that during her report, updating the moderate and the stress case scenarios and anything that she would like to report on that. We continue to work with the affiliates, soccer and football, and working through with them, just looking at cross-referencing the all sports policy that came out a few weeks ago, and then how that relates to them, and just giving suggestions and getting schedules, and the maintenance staff is working on getting fields ready. So that's the good news. We can have fields getting ready for flag football, 7-on-7, and some soccer activity. So, and then the cheerleaders will also be having activity as well. So that's good news. A survey, our big thing now is the fall programs. We've shifted, even though we're still open. The pools are open, the summer camp is still going on, and programs are still going on for summer, but we've shifted our planning to the fall. And the September-October brochure is coming out the 21st, August 21st. And we've been heavily involved with planning since the schools decided to go all remote. We have been working on a program as an alternative for the parents that need to be at work or need, some sort of a break for work or whatever they need to do. So we are looking at putting the final touches on a program that will run. It's a camp. However, it will allow the kids to log in to their e-learning when they need to. And we're stressing that we are not teachers, but we are there to, give help to the students. And this program will run 5 days a week, and they will have a choice of 2 half-day options. So there'll be 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon. And if somebody wants to sign up for both, that's great. So the staff is working very hard to look at spaces, to look at staffing levels. I've been communicating with the superintendent of 64 to talk about their space and then their programming day and what that looks like. And then we also are coordinating on the children that need the IEP, and because we cannot accommodate those children. So we're working with them on that and talking to the attorney about our plan as it relates to make sure that it's all legal. Several other park districts are working towards these. So we don't know what kind of registration we'll see. We did get a big interest when the survey went out to the Beyond the Bell community, the people that were signed up, and there was, I believe, around 75 people that they said they would need all day. Now that doesn't mean they'll sign up. They could have found alternatives, but so we are looking at pods, just, very, very similar structure that camp had. So we're also finagling a lot of different spaces without knowing enrollment yet, and we'll know more next week after we send out the registration, which will hopefully go out. The goal is end of the day tomorrow or on Monday, depending on all the reviews of the information. So that's exciting. I believe that's all I have that I can think of at this time. Does anybody have any questions about that report?
How much are you charging for those half-day sessions?
April?
Let me look, hold on.
Okay. There's I think we got the first proof today, so it's all pretty new. We had to work very quickly, so.
Right now, the proposed fees for Monday through Friday for 2 weeks for the 4-hour session is $500. I believe it comes out to like $6 something per hour.
$6 and something per hour, so cheaper than babysitters. And
$6.20 something, maybe, off the top of my head.
mm-hmm. Any other question?
No, I think it's great that we're able to offer this. Thanks for working so hard on it.
Yeah, it's the staff that gets a lot of credit. Again, the issue will be space. I've talked to the school district, and he's working on his space the teachers, because the teachers will be in their classrooms. So he said he'll know more by the end of next week, which ties well with, our registration to see, because of course we have to keep it at I think they're budgeting on 8 per pod, and we can take up to 10. So it's, it's something. I think at Main Park, April, or what our maximum we thought was 60 in Main Park. 60
Maximum
kids.
60 at Main Park. If we're able to expand to O'Connor, we could take 2 more pods if we need to. And then we just have other programs there during the week. Same thing with South Park. We think we could take 2 more pods there if we needed. And then we'd look at other facilities if it went beyond that. We're also, just like we were with camp and our summer programs, we're struggling with staff commitments as well. So some of our maximums might be based upon the amount of staff that we have returning.
So if there's no other questions, I'll go on to my the general report. The biggest, let's see, there was two things. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The biggest thing I want to talk about is early voting. I brought this up to the board. Our typical place where we allow for early voting is not possible, Centennial, due to COVID and the intermingling with that our sensitive senior population. And the room is too small as well that they used last year. So after, we told them that, we directed them to a hopeful site, a church in town, and that did not work out. So they're back asking us for a site. And another thing I talked to the school district about is if they would have room for this, if they're not in session. And he said they might, and that would be, we would know more next week on that as well. We're showing them O'Connor next week. And the issue, that I see at O'Connor, well, there's a couple issues. The space I think would work fine for them. We have at least 5 rentals already scheduled for that 2-week period. We'd have to cancel. We are, depending on the registration for this camp program, we would prefer to accommodate that first. We think it's a higher need for our parents and the children. And now if you move it to O'Connor, it's estimated the staff cost at about $2,000 a minimum, because there's nothing else going on there, as opposed to Centennial Activity Center, there was other programming going on. So they could, we didn't have to charge them as much for the staff. So they said they tried to call the city. They haven't heard back from them. And we've also directed them to the schools to see if they would have space, the high schools and the middle school. So they're going to be calling them. It really, I feel like we are trying to be everything to everybody. And this is a really tough year for everybody to have voting in their facilities. But I feel like somebody else in town can take a turn, is my feeling on this, and that we should concentrate on our core programming, with COVID going on and with the kids out of school. There's so many different circumstances, and that we consider having it back next year if the church or somewhere else does not take it. So that's my, recommendation of the board, that we do not, unless at the very last minute, we don't have, we'll know our registration too, probably. But if we have enough kids for those 2 extra pods, my recommendation is that we do not that we accommodate the children and the parents, and we don't accommodate voting this year, and they look to the schools or a alternative location. So I wanted to bring that up and see if there was any objection to that. And if not, that's the direction that we'll go.
Yeah, Gail, we took this over from the city because it outgrew their space, and we did it, willingly, but we don't own this. And I think you've done a great job of trying to make it work, but you're right. You get no money for it, and it's not a good setup this year. So I hope it works. I hope we can make it work, but I don't think it's a priority over.
So we should put the school, the program first. Okay.
Right.
Anybody else?
Yes. As far as the activity center, with what's going on there being so limited, Why couldn't it be done in that big room? The one with the stage and the screen and all that stuff.
We actually
It's-
have programming going on between Brickton, and we started table tennis, and that's where all of our exercise programs are at the moment, so everyone can remain as spread out as possible. So that's being used the most at the moment. We're not having our, the card clubs or drop-in programs. So in order to, we'd have to cancel any programming that we have. And, we'd have to cancel the Brickton programs as well, because we wouldn't want the intermingling of the everyone coming and going. When early voting was going on there, there were people lined up in the lobby, lined up throughout the building. So we just weren't comfortable with having.
No, I agree with that. I understand that. I wasn't aware that you had all that programming there.
Yeah, there's a few programs going on each day, and then on the weekends, there's programs going on as well. And Stagecoach is also considering going back to in-person in the fall as well, because that room is so large, having smaller groups to have the ability to be up on the stage. And so they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't made a formal decision yet, but that was also a consideration.
I mean, it's not that we don't want to accommodate this. It's just that we feel like, especially this year, and, it's $2,000. It may not sound like a lot, but we are cutting everything that's not necessary, and everybody's not in our position, everybody's hurting, I know that, but, people are not in the position that we are in financially due to what we rely on for our programming and our fees and charges. So I think, we've got to, we can't always be that person, right? We try to be, or that agency, right?
Gail, do you know if they've talked to any of the other churches?
They were out, Marion, scoping places out, Marion said today, right?
Yeah, they were scoping Park Ridge places, but mainly a lot of our places in the Park District. They said they've done, they checked with churches, but I think a lot of it is because the churches want the money and they don't provide money for this.
Anybody else have any comments on that?
Well, Marianne, who's the they that were scoping it out?
County elections. It was one man that they have on staff that goes out and I talked to him several times today, and then I talked to also the Cook County, the head of the Cook County elections too as well, and told him that we have we have O'Connor, but we are using it at this point, and we haven't made a decision.
Right. Okay.
And again, if we can, we'll try. But go ahead, Jennifer. Sorry.
Oh, well, I just know, based on things I've seen and, like parents of D64 and other groups like that, there are a lot of parents that are really going to want to have the option of sending their kids somewhere. And I just, as much as it, I love it that normally we can help, I think it would be a shame if we had to cut the potential for 2 pods worth of kids to accommodate this for something that we would then also have to be shelling out money for. So I agree with your perspective for those reasons.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Or we can go ahead with our plan. Okay, if there's other questions on that, the marketing and public relations report and the human resources report are in front of you or in your packet. If there's any questions, and if not, that would be the conclusion of my report.
The human resources report noted that you had, I was surprised to see the number of resignations. Is that causing a big problem, or could you comment on that?
The full-time staff?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
The 2
Well,
full-time employees.
Wow, right.
I'm sorry.
There were both.
Uh-huh. There's the assistant, well, the aquatic supervisor, and then the registrar at the activity center. And they both indicated in their exit, I think one of them indicated in their exit interview that it was definitely related to COVID. And these two employees were both, unfortunately, employees that we had to furlough for a period of time. And yes, so I would say that one for sure was, and I'm not sure about the second one. It wasn't stated, but unless, April, do you remember if that was stated? I don't think so.
No, the second one was looking for opportunities out of state. So,
Yeah, she went to Wisconsin, so it was one of the two. And just, really to reiterate what April said under human resources, are, a challenge that I guess I didn't anticipate as much. Well, I shouldn't say that, but just the staffing, we're struggling getting people back because of, COVID related things, and, they're watching their children. They're responsible for their children. So, and then a lot of the college kids now are, I think I mentioned that last week, if they're going back to college, they have to leave us early because they have to quarantine. So that's been that's our August challenge, and I'll move into the fall, with programming for preschool and for this camp that we're trying to extend, but they're doing their best. We're reaching out to everybody and anybody. So not anybody and anybody, but reaching out to, everybody that is able to work. So that's all I have.
Thank you for that update. And with Commissioner Harrington not being here, I'd like to turn over the finance to Superintendent DeAngelis, please.
Thank you, Vice President Tunnell. I'm going to show my screen. I think it'll help us as we walk through the financial information. But my written report begins on page 15. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm seeing all of you and not seeing, there we go. Okay, thank you. So I will highlight that we've begun the 2021 budget process, and we've given direction to staff to assume phase 4 continues through the winter and spring, and that phase 5 begins for summer and fall programming. I distributed the budget timeline to the board on July 17th. So please let me know if you have any questions regarding the 2021 budget process.
I think you said we're approving it in January, right?
Yes, the timeline, as we've laid it out, assumes the final approval would be the January meeting. Correct.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
I had it ready just in case.
So we have to work in December.
Well, we always do, so hopefully it will, give us a little more time to, have better information as we're working through the process. I wanted to mention that we've begun the process to apply for the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Public Assistance Grant. We've received the required forms for documentation, and staff has compiled the list of expenses totaling approximately $40,000, which I'm currently reviewing for eligibility and pulling together invoices, etc. I'll keep the board posted on where we are in that process. Payroll unemployment claim data was updated, and I've provided highlights of the monthly report by funds and projection updates, which we'll go over in more detail with the monthly report by funds. And we've also included our monthly IT update. So at this point, I would ask if anyone has any questions regarding the written report. Okay, if not, I will move on to the monthly report by funds. Starting with the treasurer's report, I would just point out that our total cash and investment balance of 11.8 million is approximately $400,000 below where we were last year. It was 12.2 for the July 31st report. So our cash and our cash balance of 6.9 million, continues to remain strong. And part of this is because we have started to receive property tax, the second half installment payments have begun to come in, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the projections. And our investment portfolio, there's a large amount of maturities here in November, and that is for our December 1st debt service payments. And as you'll see when we review the projection graphs, we expect to maintain sufficient liquidity with the current investments that we have. And the performance report from PMA shows that our yield to maturity here, this just reflects that we were able to make those investments maturing in November for debt service and some of the other longer core fund balance investments in February, really right before the rates really dropped. So that's why we continue to have a yield higher than the benchmark. So moving on to the report, these report by funds, the all funds report on page 21. It shows that, I'll scroll down here to our net position year to date. While it shows here the 2.7 that we're better than budgeted, it's largely driven by lower capital spending and reduced operating expenses. It's also below the prior year by about 480,000. So the general fund shows a similar pattern, and as we discussed, so here's our surplus. It's a bit better than budget to date, but lower than the prior year. The recreation fund here on page 23, really shows the impact of the pandemic as we've previously discussed. The net position of or net deficit of 400,000, it's approximately 1.5 million below where we were at the prior year, this time last year. Our capital fund shows lower than budgeted expenses. As you'll recall, we have reduced some of or postponed some of the projects. So this reflects what's going on there. And then when we look at the operating fund, which again is our general fund and our recreation fund, and we back out the debt service and capital, we can see here that the net position, while it currently remains a surplus of about 800,000, it is also about 800,000 below where we have budgeted for this time of year, and we're 1.5 million below the prior year. So we're really seeing how this the shutdown and the change in what we're able to offer is impacting our finances. But we did anticipate that, right? So we have, have our projection model, and I've made some updates and changes that I'm going to talk through in a little more detail. This next report, again, is we've updated our July year-to-date, but the remainder of the year continues to show what we had planned for in the 2020 budget. So we don't expect that this is going to happen the rest of the year, but we just have kept this report as for comparison purposes. So we'll move on to the cash position and fund balance position graph. So at our last meeting, Treasurer Harrington had requested that we work on projecting out further to see what things would look like, and what if we had to shut down again, could we show that in the stress case scenario? So this is what we've tried to model in the two cases. I'll point out here that this dashed blue line, this represents our estimated cash and investment position based on the 2020 budget. So that is why it ends here in December. I did not extend it out because we don't really have our 2021 budget prepared yet. But the light blue line here is our actual cash through July. So this is where our cash position is compared to what we had budgeted. And it has been extended out, assuming that the moderate case revenues and expenses come to fruition. So that is what this extension of the light blue line is based on. Again, this is our cash and investment position, and the yellow and red line represent our fund balance. So those aren't always the same thing for accounting purposes. The yellow line is the moderate case, and the red line is showing where we would expect the stress case to end up. And I will walk through the changes in those assumptions. And these bars here, again, are showing what our actual current investments are. You can see in November, when we have all those maturities, that we have a lot fewer investments. But the gap here between fund balance and the investments really represents that liquidity, and why we should have confidence that we would have sufficient cash to meet our obligations. Okay, so I've made a number of changes to the moderate case scenario. I'm going to go back here. Previously, we had, based on the reopening budget plans for the summer programs, estimated 65%-ish of budget going forward through the fall. So as we've seen our actual results come in, while some of our fees and admissions were higher than what we were estimating, but based on the reopening plans, our program fees were about half of what we had projected. So looking at that, I've made adjustments going forward through the rest of the year. So I kept our fees and admission assumptions at 65% of budget for the fall programs, and reduced September through December to 35% of what the original 2020 budget was. So we're not expecting as many fees from programs. So this does not reflect, the new information based on the school closure. This is the best guesstimate based on a percentage of what we had previously budgeted. We haven't tried to yet to kind of hone in on what this new camp in lieu of Beyond the Bell program would do. But it seems like the way things have been playing out, that it's a fair estimate at this point. The other major change here, we had previously put all of our property taxes coming in September, October, and the small amounts that usually come in November and December based on the change in the penalty date. It was moved to October 1st. The due date for property taxes, however, remained August 1st. So in fact, we did see the pattern of property taxes begin to come in July. So I've projected out an estimate for August. Already the first week of August here, we've gotten actually 1.7 million of property taxes in the first 2 weeks of August, I should say. So this was prepared before I had that information because we just got another chunk that came in today. So, you know, our cash position is doing okay. We won't really know until after that penalty date whether we will meet or beat the 85% assumption. But I've kept the assumption of 85%. We've just shifted the timing of when these receipts are coming in. We're getting them in earlier than when we had originally set out the projections. So those are kind of the major changes for the moderate case. So in addition to lowering the estimated program fees for September through December, the expenses related to those programs have also been reduced because when we have fewer programs, we have fewer program expenses. So does anybody have any questions on the moderate case scenario?
Did that have Beyond the Bell included in it then?
So it would have been included in the 2020 budget for the fall. So we've taken all of the program fees and
35%.
said estimated 35% of what was budgeted.
Okay.
So we'll take a closer look at that again and see if we need to make any adjustments going forward. So at the end, our net deficit, so this is something that I added so you can see it easier on this chart. I added the net deficit at the bottom here compared to what we had originally budgeted of negative 300,000. We're looking at a negative $1 million based on these assumptions that I just talked about. And the fund balance as a percent of estimated expenditures is actually showing higher now than budget. So I added fund balance as a percent of the budget, just so as we think about the 2021 budget, our expenses are likely to be higher than in 2020 because these have been reduced due to the shutdown, if that makes sense. So I want to make sure that based on what we had previously budgeted, our fund balance is still in line with our policy. So if anyone has any other questions, I'll move on to the stress case. And the biggest thing here is that we've assumed that there's another closure that's required. Nobody wants to think about that, but everyone talks and we hear about the potential for a second wave with if it's a bad flu season, et cetera. So I decided November through January would be a place to see what would happen if we had to close down for those 3 months again. And in addition, so what we had previously done in the stress case scenario was for programs and fees and admissions, take about half of the moderate scenario. So we've done the same here since we took that, since we kept that at 65% for the moderate case for fees and admissions. I took it in the stress case to 32.5%. And for program fees, since we brought it down to 35%, I took it down in the stress case to 17.5%. Otherwise, most of these assumptions are the same. And then with expenses, similarly, we've applied those percentages to the program expenses down to 17.5% here in September through October. And then, whether sometimes I'm taking the percentage as compared to our actual experience in January and February versus the budget in other months. So, and what we see here is that at the bottom, our net deficit at the end of the year, let me just scroll up a little bit here so I can show you. So that is why here in November, December, and January, we're seeing all these zeros, because that assumes that we've had to close. I still assume we're incurring expenses here because our payroll is lagging, and expenses are always lagging from when the programs actually run. But then I'm showing zero here in December and January to model the effect of another shutdown. And again, by the end of the year, while our fund balance as a percentage of budget is pretty low, it's not as low as when we first started looking at how bad things could get. So that's encouraging. However, the net deficit here under the stress model is 1.9 million compared to that 300,000 we had originally budgeted. So I think that concludes my review of the updated projections and where we are financially. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot.
Help me. Help me, why is our budgeted number, that's our regular budgeted number, was a negative?
Yeah, because capital. So if you look, this is the budget column. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes, I'll look
Okay.
at your, okay.
Can you see my cursor?
Yeah, I just can't see what's at the top, what the name of the column.
That's,
Maybe
oops.
that column was.
That column is the budget, 2020
Okay.
budget. Yeah.
Okay.
So the top half here, again, is our general and recreation funds together. This does include debt service. So it's not like truly that kind of operating fund calculation, but it's a reasonable proxy here for ease of presentation, I should say. We had a surplus of 360,000 here. But our capital fund, we were showing, because of the timing difference of when we issue bonds and when our projects are happening, we had budgeted that we would be spending almost 3.4 million this year for a deficit in the capital fund of 674,000. So when we look at all the funds across the whole enterprise, it was a negative 314,000. Is that any more clear?
A little.
So we weren't on an operating basis, we were budgeting a surplus. It's the capital fund that makes that negative. And it's because we're using fund balance, capital fund balance to fund.
Cindy, would it help you to, sorry, Sandra, would it help you to see the spreadsheet on the operating fund to help you look at what we thought we were going to do operating?
No, it's okay. I'll
Okay.
look at it again and I'll talk to Sandra.
Okay. I know it's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of numbers.
I was really struggling with this whole new report, but I'll look at it again.
Okay.
Okay, feel free to reach out to me if I can help clarify.
I will do that.
Anybody else? No? Then I will stop sharing my screen and hand it off.
Thank you for that.
And in Commissioner Harrington's absence, I will call another suggested motion. So I move to approve for payment vouchers in the total amount of $539,844.76. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date.
I second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner LaDuke,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Brow,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington, Commissioner Coyne.
All right, thank you. And then moving on to recreation, I turn the hot mic over to Commissioner Grau.
Oh, it's a hot potato. I'm giving it to Superintendent Armour. For a very detailed report.
Thank you. I will give some highlights of my report starting on page 32. Some of these things we did talk about last week already, but we do have our in-person camps wrapping up next week. We have continued to see participation in virtual programs as well as the in-person programs. As you can see, our charts have changed a bit of how we presented in the past, but I at least wanted the board to be able to see comparisons if there was a June session and a July session, so I hope that helped. Our ice arena in-person programs remain steady, and as you can see, the driving range is booming. We had to double and triple check those numbers because they were surprising. I guess not if you've been out there, it's packed all the time. Our activity center, as you can see, has some in-person programming, and Brookton is doing very well in their in-person and virtual as well. For fitness center, the indoor classes are going slow. I think we mentioned that last week, but we've added more outdoor classes, so that remains popular as much as we've been offering. They continue to fill for the most part. I think they've figured out what people are looking for. And we did have some new members join last month also, so that was exciting despite the drop in our membership, or a lot have been put on hold. We're still seeing some people who want to come in. And we also mentioned last time the indoor pool, we had the rental, which is going through August, and they're interested in moving forward with future rentals in the fall. They're just trying to figure out what that will look like and if we're going to try and accommodate their needs. And we added a little more detail on the outdoor pool participation, and that remains strong, and we've continued to have a great weather. And the staffing is definitely depleting. We have changed our online reservation system just to be by the week, and we're basing it off of the staffing that we are confident that we have on the schedule. Right now, for the next upcoming week, the time frames that we've offered in the past at the spray pad, we actually had quite a few people who are working at the spray pad move on unexpectedly, or decide to go to college and have to quarantine, all of the things that have been mentioned. So we have had a couple of staff interested in getting cross-trained, so we're going to do that as soon as possible and add more. We're going to add anything that we can moving forward and have time slots open as we can for as long as we can remain open. I did ask the team to forward, we've been getting some comments. I just thought it would be really nice for the board to see some of the positive things that people are saying. So I added some comments and quotes on page 37 and 38. I thought that would be something fun for everyone to take a peek at. And in addition to what we're doing for, in lieu of the Beyond the Bell program, we're also finalizing with our staffing and with DCFS what we'll be able to do for preschool. And then the brochure for September and October will go out to the public next Friday, and registration will begin on the following Monday. So keeping very busy and, shifting things as we find out new information, and the team's doing a really great job in trying to get staff onboarded and doing cross training amongst each other. So definitely been a team effort. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the report.
Normal is going to be pretty boring after this year. It's incredible, just incredible.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I can't wait for normal.
You've done a great job keeping all the wheels going forward and offering as much as you can, and now trying to keep it staffed. Oy. All right. I guess we're done. We go over to buildings and grounds. Commissioner O'Donnell, is that you?
Yeah. Oh, I was thought. Yeah, never mind. So I will yield the floor to Superintendent Wolf.
Well, my report begins on page 40 of the PDF board report, board packet. I did include, I thought it would be interesting for the board just to get an update on, we surplus a lot of these things. We don't always, I don't often report back about how that turns out, but we did just recently sell one of our trucks that was in really bad, shape, really beat up hard for us. We were having difficulties, and so we surplused it. And we did get just over $6,000 for that, which was good. The staff was excited, thought that was a very fair value for that vehicle. So I also wanted to, I'm regretting calling this a highlight, but I guess highlight or low light the pathway improvement portion of the museum grant right now. We've encountered additional delay here in the paving plan that we had planned to go with. The contractor is no longer able to offer this or to complete this work for us. So Jennifer Meunier and I are working with our engineering company and trying to come up with another solution that'll work, hopefully as close to our budget as possible. But this is another challenge, unfortunately, that we've had. And we've had a lot of that portion in that area, unfortunately. But so we'll be continuing to work on that and reaching out, talk to the board at future board meetings to talk about how we're going to proceed with that. On the flip side, though, however, the picnic shelter is now, nearly completed. We've just got the last few inspections to go. The fencing did come down the other day, was my understanding, and so it is open. The picnic tables will be out there very shortly if they have not already made it out there today. So otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions on anything else in my board report.
Anybody have any questions?
So the path, that product is specific to that company. There's no one else that does that product.
Yeah, that was like a proprietary thing that this company had developed and was working on. And so, in fact, when we secured that and went that route, we didn't even have the ability to go out to bid for that because there's nobody else that does it. So there was no competitive bid available. So we did go with that, and it was looking like it was going to be, it should have been a cheaper option than some other, surfaces, but.
I remember that.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it's just not panning out. The contractor said he keeps running into, scheduling, timing issues and weather, and he doesn't want to keep stringing it so long, which I appreciate. And he finally said he just can't commit to the size of our project. He's doing other things that are so much bigger that he just has to stay focused on, unfortunately. So.
Terry, I think it's important also to mention that we've heard some not so great things about one of our neighbors used them as well, park districts,
Yeah.
and they're having some issues with it. So it may turn out in the long run that it was, it's not the worst thing, but of course, as we said, it was much cheaper than our other alternatives. And I know that they're talking to the president of the company we're working with, the contractor, is that what you call you all, and to try to come up with some different, project manager, come up with some different options for us. So thought I'd add that in there.
That is a good point. Thank you.
So just to clarify, the other community, they actually have performance issues with the product, the finished product?
Yeah, it's been back and forth. They had an issue last year when the installation happened. The installation happened on a day that they were hoping to not have some rain, but it rained, and that created a problem for the way that this product was applied. So they had to come back, and it took them a long time to come back. And they did the work, and they actually just completed the rework of that within the last month, I believe, and maybe month and a half. And so when they came back and completed that work, my staff went over and visited it and talked to their staff. And the initial reports actually were that they were good. And so we were getting on schedule. We'd actually had them scheduled to come out a couple of weeks ago, and they were a no-show. And since that time that they were a no-show, we've actually found out that some of their product had failed again. So to Gail's point, that it has continued to be a problem. So. And it is a newer technology, I guess, overall. So, those are some of the risks you run, but we were trying to find a good alternative. So it's really kind of been back and forth. But as of right now, yes, they're still having issues with it.
Yeah, so maybe it is just as well.
Yeah, it may well be.
I'm going to add one more thing to Terry's report. After the storm the other day, I came out early and did a tour of the parks and also met with Terry's staff that had been out, and I was shocked that it didn't appear we had any major damage to the trees or trees down, which I was thrilled about based on where I was coming from in Chicago. That was a completely opposite scene. So we really dodged a bullet there, and I think there was just some branches out of Brickton was really what we lost. So I was really thrilled to see that. So we got lucky.
We did, correct.
Any other discussion or questions? So hearing none, I'm going to move on here. I need to make a motion regarding the outdoor classroom project. I move to reject all Main Park outdoor classroom project bids as the bids exceed the budget available for the project. This action will be formally ratified at an actual board meeting with physical presence at a later date. You need a second? Can somebody second this motion?
I second.
Discussion? Yeah, I think that Superintendent Wolf covered this at some length at our meeting last week. So hearing no discussion, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Leach,
Yeah.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Tunnel,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Harrington, Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
Thank you.
I turn the floor back to Vice President Tunnel.
All right, as far as policy goes, I have nothing to report at this moment, but I'd like to forward the microphone over to Intergovernmental Liaison Commissioner Leduc.
I have nothing to report for intergovernmental, but I did want to say that Vice President Tunnel and Executive Director Mountcastle and I watched and listened to the second part of the 3-part webinar we've been listening to in diversity to sort of give us some insights on what we're going to do going forward. So we're continuing with that effort, and that's something that I'm hoping to then see if, what other agencies or boards, I guess, are doing in town. That's it.
Thank you for covering that. I kind of missed it. I apologize, but it's been a great learning for sure. So, any communications and correspondence to report? No. Seeing none. Any new business anyone would like to discuss?
I just want to bring up one thing that actually I heard from Vice President Tunnel, some great news that his company, thanks to his initiative, Allstate, is donating $5,000 toward our outdoor classroom program. And they're going to be working at the bike, the drop off for the foundation bike sale. So that's getting us $5,000 closer to the number that we were over. So we thank him very much for that.
We need another 0 at the end of that.
I tried. We'll keep trying. Every year I'll just keep going back. So, yeah, we look forward to. I think we have at least 5 or 6 people coming to help. So that'll be
Awesome.
That's great.
So.
Awesome.
That's great.
That'll be fun. At least it won't be cold this year.
We hope.
All right, I have a suggested motion here that I move to join the closed session to discuss land acquisition per 2C5. We will reconvene at the regular board meeting to adjourn the regular board meeting. May I please have a second?
Second.
May I please have a roll call vote?
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Tunnel,
Yes.
Mr. Grau,
Yes.
Mr. Harrington, Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Mr. Leach,
Yeah.
Mr. Coyne. Okay, at this time, we're going to have the commissioners and Gail to get off of this meeting, and you're going to dial into the next meeting that you were given. This meeting will stay open, so as soon as we're done with our closed meeting, we will automatically go back to this meeting, okay?
Wait,
Okay.
And I just give me a minute though to open it up before you sign it. I won't let you go in, but
we have to sign out of this one though?
Well,
We
they
have
should.
to leave this meeting?
yeah, we probably should.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can sign out of it.
You guys can sign
Yeah, we
out and then you can sign back in.
Okay, so our original panelist invitation will get us back in when the time comes? Okay,
The meeting's going to stay open, okay?
okay.
Nothing bad can happen here, I'm sure. So hope to see you soon.
All right, let me. What?
Hello, Robert.
Rob?
Yeah, you can.
We're in closed session.
You can hear me?
Yeah, they're in closed session.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Or is it a different number?
It's a different number, for a different invitation from Gail.
Okay. It's under Gail from an email from Gail?
It would be an email from go-to meeting on behalf of Gail.
Okay. Let me find it.
Okay.
See, we got to practice that anyway, right?
Everybody back on.
Not yet. Or maybe they are.
Oh, I'm here. I just didn't turn on my screen.
Okay. So, Marianne, we probably just need 4 of them, right?
Yes.
I'm on.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start the reconvene the regular board meeting at 8:34. And if Commissioner Tunnel can go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and then I'll do a roll call.
Let's keep going. I move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners.
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
Sure. Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington, Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne. All right, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you, everyone.
See you in a month.
Drive safely, Terry.
Yes.
Travels.
I will. Yeah.
Bye-bye.